Good afternoon, Professor. This is Daniela Sanchez speaking. I let you know that I'm not the most tech-savvy person, so bear with me as I'm using the advice you gave me and using my phone to pretty much record the PowerPoint I was able to create for you. So hopefully this lists all the criteria that we were given on not only LoudCloud, but the criteria that we were given on the assignment checklist, which is the last thing on this PowerPoint. So getting started, I have listed for you the steps of the scientific method along with the description. So on the left-hand side, we start off with making an observation, asking a question, proposing a hypothesis, experimenting between your independent and dependent variables, collecting data, and last is reporting results and conclusions. So on the right-hand side, there are descriptions that coincide with the left-hand side bullets. So first and foremost, making an observation or observations about something, asking questions about the observations and gathering information. Third, a hypothesis should be a tentative description of what's been observed, making predictions based on the hypothesis. Next is testing the hypothesis and predictions in an experiment that can be reproduced. Next is analyzing the data and drawing conclusions, accepting or rejecting the hypothesis or modifying the hypothesis if necessary. And last is reproducing the experiment until there are no discrepancies between observations and theory, which you'll actually be able to see along that I put this to the test, which was super fun. My roommate was actually able to help me, which is why it says, Chloe and Danny make an observation and propose a question. So one of the questions we asked is, does the temperature of butter affect the textures of cookies? Does the temperature of butter affect the size of the cookie? So deductive versus inductive reasoning. Deductive on the left-hand side is basically describing the scientific method specifically uses deduction or deductive reasoning to test the hypothesis and theories. A common form of this reasoning is a syllogism to reach a logical conclusion. Within this reasoning, there is a premise, a second premise, then finally an inference. On the right-hand side, broad generalizations form from specific observations. This is specifically talking about inductive reasoning. Data, then conclusions are drawn from the data. And for example, the first batch of cookies I baked were soft and golden. The third batch of cookies were soft and golden. Therefore, all the cookies baked are soft and golden. Pretty much making an assumption off of what you've already experienced is what I kind of learned along the way. So next are the differences between hypothesis, theory, and law. First and foremost, hypothesis is a supposition or proposed explanation made on the base of limited evidence as a starting point for further analysis or experimentation. Next, theory is a supposition or a system of ideas intended to explain something, especially based on principles independent of the thing to be explained. Kind of a tongue twister right there. Next is law. Law is a generalized rule to explain a body of observations in the form of a verbal or mathematical statement. Scientific laws, also known as natural laws, imply a cause and effect between the observed elements and must always apply under the same conditions, always or almost in the sense of a rule. Next are my examples of hypothesis, theory, and law. And then on the right-hand side, you can actually see the recipe that I use for each batch of the cookies. So first, hypothesis. The temperature of butter, melted versus room temperature versus cold, will have an effect on the size of the cookies. Theory, the cookies made using the melted butter will be the flattest and the softest. And law, which is the law of thermodynamics, when heat is added to a solid, which the solid for my case is cookies, it causes a solid to expand, causing it to take more space. It is still in the form of a solid, but in a different shape or even melted. And then all cookies, of course, were cooked at 350 degrees for 11 minutes. And I did use the same size spoon to keep them in the same shape and same form. So here we have melted butter and room temperature butter. On the left, this is the melted butter. So these were actually darker in color and much more dry compared to the other two. They were actually even the flattest and the largest. For room temperature butter, these were smaller than the melted butter cookies, and they were a little bit lighter in color, and they even came out to kind of a wonky shape, which you can kind of see right here, and you can kind of see that they were flat. They never even touched the pan, so they just kind of tend to form like this. but they were soft and moist in the center. As for cold butter, these were a little bit bigger than the room temperature butter, but smaller than the melted butter cookies and like medium brown in color, but they did end up soft and moist. So in conclusion, the clear differences were between the size, color, and texture. The temperature of butter can change the physical properties of cookies, which you saw by having me put them to the test. In order from the left to the right includes melted butter, room temperature butter, and cold butter, and I did list the descriptions for you at the side just so you can kind of remember what the differences were. And last is my assignment checklist. So everything underneath does say yes. Hopefully I was able to provide you with every single thing that you did need, especially because I was having technical difficulties, but I hope you enjoyed this video and hopefully you like the cookies just as much as I did, and you could probably even put it to the test for yourself. So thank you.